But Californians are doing this to Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. It's not just us. I get a lot of complaints, people saying those damn Californians are driving our prices up. And so the problems you're seeing in Reno and the affordability here is the same thing you're seeing in all these West Coast cities. Housing affordability is the number one complaint I'm getting right now, and not just for here in Reno or Northern Nevada, but in every large West Coast city, especially with those from California heading their way. Affordable housing in Northern Nevada isn't just a challenge, it's becoming a crisis that's redefining the American dream for many families, and especially for young people just getting started. Over the past 2 decades, Northern Nevada has seen a significant influx of new residents, especially those coming from California, and it's been driven by the booming tech industry and a growing reputation as a great place to live, and I can personally vouch for that. However, this rapid growth has led to housing prices becoming unaffordable to many, making it increasingly difficult for longtime residents and newcomers alike to find affordable homes that they can buy and even rent for that matter. If we don't address this issue, we risk deepening social and economic divides, pushing essential workers out of the region, and ultimately stunting the area's growth and prosperity. How can Northern Nevada ensure that its housing market remains accessible to all? Let's explore this topic and also talk about some of the surrounding areas such as Carson City, Fernley, Dayton, and even Silver Springs, which could work for you and many may not even know about them. Are you considering relocating to Reno or Northern Nevada? Then subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications to learn more about why Reno is an excellent place to live and work. So the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is housing affordability and why are prices not coming down. There's multiple factors here as why they're not coming down. The biggest one is, of course, limited inventory. There are so many people that own their home free and clear, or they're locked into a 2 or 3 or 4% interest rate. The existing homes are not coming on the market. Most new construction homes that were being built are more in the higher price point. So if you're someone looking to try to find a $300,000 or $400,000 house in Northern Nevada, you're looking at older areas, outlying areas, homes that need a lot of work. And so there's people just kind of staying where they are. I have plenty of people that would love to sell and move up or sell a big house and move down. And because of the interest rates that they have, they're just currently locked into where they are. It's a huge problem for them as far as being able to make those adjustments. In most of my career, these mid-high 6s and low 7% interest rates were normal. But when prices were half as much as they are now, the effect of those rates weren't nearly what you're seeing in today's market. The other thing is average home prices. I don't think people realize the average home price in the Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County area is in the mid 500s, and it's creeping towards 600. And if you're someone that says, I don't want to buy, I want to rent, the rental prices aren't getting cheaper either. It's really hard to find anything unless you go try to rent a room from somebody. I know a few people that do that pay $600 or $700 a month, but for most people, it is really hard to find something under $1,200 or $1,400 that isn't just a studio. So that is some of the drivers on housing affordability. Now, pricing, it's all relative to what you're used to. So people that grew up here or that lived in Nevada their whole life, they feel like our pricing has gotten out of control. But every time I look at the top 10 most expensive places to live list, the San Jose area and the San Francisco area always end up being 2 of the most expensive areas you can find. And what also hurts us is in Las Vegas, you always have San Diego and LA. And these Californians aren't just moving to Nevada. They're causing problems in Portland, Seattle, Boise, Vegas, Salt Lake City, Phoenix. I mean, you're seeing all these major West Coast cities. I've even had a few people move to Albuquerque, New Mexico, trying to avoid that. But Californians are doing this to Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. You're seeing lots of communities. It's not just us. I get a lot of complaints, people saying those damn Californians are driving our prices up. But again, to them, every time I talk to them, they still think our prices are low and are good. And so the problems you're seeing in Reno and the affordability here is the same thing you're seeing in all these West Coast cities. So it's not exclusive to our area. And I know a lot of people, they reach out to me about these videos and say, hey, stop trying to get people to move here. I'm not trying to get people to move here. I'm trying to get people information that are thinking already about moving here, or for you local people that might want information about what can I do to get in the game. And honestly, the pricing is not going to go down. The affordability is going to be what it is. And most of my clients that were in their 20s and 30s that bought homes, I mean, I hate to say it, most of them got some sort of help either with a down payment or being able to buy the interest rate down. Here's kind of the timing issue in the story for people. So as an example, I've had this on a couple of occasions. I bought my house 5 years ago for $435,000. And at the time, it was literally just a rental house. I never planned on living in it. And then a couple years later, prices went skyrocketing. All the COVID stuff happened. And my price went literally from there almost to $700,000. And this is where we did see some backup in pricing. Prices did come back down and it did get a little more affordable. But as the prices came down, the interest rates went up and it didn't make things more affordable for people. On my situation, because I bought 5 years ago, I have a payment that's about $1,700 a month. If someone turned around and tried to buy my exact same house right now, their house payment would literally be triple what mine is, even with some sort of 10 or 20% down payment. And so I'm not quite sure long term how we're going to make that go away and how things are going to become more affordable. I think you're just going to have to start seeing people either going into older homes, trying to do a little more sweat equity and fix up some homes, Or as much as I hate to say it, you might buy a home as a couple and you might even still have to rent a room out to somebody to make those things more affordable. My mom did it when I was a kid. We used to rent a room out in our house to a gentleman, and it would help her in covering all the costs and expenses of a house. So you're just going to have to start getting more creative and thinking more out of the box. Are you planning to relocate to Reno, Nevada? Then make sure you're fully informed by clicking the link in the video description to download our free buyer's guide. This guide is packed with all the information you're going to need to start on your real estate journey into Northern Nevada. So here are some other options I like to talk to people about because they think of just Washoe County and Reno Sparks and that kind of area. But if you were to go straight south towards Carson City is about 60,000 people. It is a different county, different schools. From my office, I can be in Carson City in 20, 25 minutes. So it's not a bad commute for people that want to still work and do things in Reno Sparks, but maybe get a little more affordable option. The downsides to Carson City is this. There's not been a lot of new construction, so a lot of the inventory there is older. And even some of those areas are now starting to get a little more expensive. But in those areas, when I did some research on that, you can find an average home under $500,000. It just might be smaller and older. And it is literally from the airport, let's say, to the middle of Carson, it's about 30 minutes. So it's not too far as going places go. A lot of people, what they did is they went east of Reno out to Fernley. So from Sparks area out to Fernley is about 30, 35 minutes. But the reason why people went out to Fernley was halfway between is USA Parkway. And USA Parkway is where we talked about before, whether it was Tesla or Switch or Microsoft or Panasonic. If you haven't been out that way, there's a lot of companies going out that way. And yes, there's been some pros and cons of the employment options out there. But the reason why people went to Fernley is you can still find a house in Fernley for under $400,000 that would be similar to what you find in some areas in Sparks. And your commute from there to USA Parkway versus from Sparks to USA Parkway would have to be a lot better in my opinion because there's just so many less people living in Fernley versus living in the Sparks Reno area. If you have those two areas, whether you went south or east, there's another city that is south of Fernley and east of Carson, which is Dayton. And if you've never been to Dayton, it's about 15,000, 17,000 people living in Dayton. And same kind of thing. Now, Dayton has some homes you can still buy. They're 600,000 and 700,000. You can also find some less expensive stuff in Dayton. But again, whether you go out in Sparks or in these areas like Dayton, you usually get a little more elbow room, a little more space. So you're not necessarily getting a lower price. You just might get a bigger house, more space, more room. And even now in those areas just outside there, if you really wanted to get a little further out, for example, I'm getting ready to list a house in Silver Springs, which is just another 10 minutes past Dayton. And it's going to be on over 4 acres. It's a one-level house on like 2,500 square feet. So again, you're not necessarily going to get cheaper because that house is probably going to be somewhere in the mid to low 500s, but you do get much more elbow room. You are much more isolated. And if you're looking for a little more of that space to park your toys and all your things, then some of these outlying areas might work for you. So I do know people call that even going further, whether it's through Washoe Valley all the way past Carson down to Minden and Gardnerville. But if you've never been to Minden and Gardnerville, there is not a lot of affordable housing down there because what people forget is it is a quick, easy drive from there to the south end of Lake Tahoe. So it seems like the more you go that far south, there's not a lot of inexpensive options unless it's homes that are literally 75 years or older. If you're one of those people trying to figure out how I might be able to get into the buying a home market or buying a condo or buying a townhome. We have one listed right now for $220,000. So there are options. Your first property, the first thing you're going to buy may not always be your dream home. It's that first home to get you hopefully to the second home or to the third home. And maybe you can keep it as a rental property. But if you don't get in the game, it's going to be really hard to afford something here in Reno because I really don't think you're going to see prices go down. And if interest rates do go down, prices are going to go up. And I think it's just going to make the problem worse rather than better. So if you're trying to figure out what your specific issue is and why you can't afford, or maybe for a lot of people, I think it's consumer debt things that cause them not to be able to afford that house payment and not necessarily that prices have gone out of control, reach out to us. No obligations. Just looking to have a conversation with you and see how we can help you get in the game so that you can spend the next year or two getting in a situation where you will eventually be able to afford a property and not have to be a long-term renter. Are you thinking about potentially buying a house here in Reno and Northern Nevada? Then check out our next video. We talk about the difference between renting versus buying and all the pros and cons that you need to know about.